We are almost there. For the duration of this flight, I would ask that you put your cell phones on airplane mode. And we are ready. Okay. Clerks, are we ready to go? Okay. All right. I will call to order the, let me put my own phone in airplane mode. It was in silent, but not airplane mode. All right, I will call to order the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Governing Board meeting for Thursday, December 9th. It is now 2 p.m. Let's start with a roll call.
All right. Naomi Dewar.
Here.
Ed Lawson.
Here.
Bob Lucy for Alexis Hill.
Here.
Neoma Jordan for Bonnie Weber.
Here.
Devin Rees.
Here.
Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
Donald Abbott.
Here.
Jean Herman.
Here.
Jenny Breckus.
Here.
And Vaughn Hartung.
I am here.
And non-voting member Beth Smith. Here. All right. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Item number 2 is salute to the flag. Mr. Abbott, would you lead us?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Do we need any changes, any emendations, or are we good to go?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Herman, second by Mr. Rees. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Approval of the minutes. A, October 14th, the Regional Governing Board RPGB minutes for possible action. Are there any, again, emendations to those minutes?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Rees. I believe my second was by Ms. Vanderwell. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 5. This is general public comment. Mr. Clerk, I have nobody in front of me, but I'm assuming that you have people signed in. This is general public comment. It can be on items both on and off the agenda. You will have an opportunity to speak on specific agenda items as well, and then you will have another opportunity at the very end of the meeting to make public comment again. So, Mr. Clerk, would you call public comment?
Yes, we have none for the specific item.
No one's signed in for this item?
Not for. Oh wait, hold on one second.
General
Nope.
public comment.
Yep.
Item
No
number
one for item
Okay.
5. Yep.
All right, I will close item number 5 and take us to item number 6. Mr. Manager, would you take us into item number 6, the consent agenda?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Jeremy Smith for the record. The consent agenda has one item. It's the possible adoption of the advanced schedule of RPGB meeting dates for calendar year 2022, and that's following our past practice of every other month, the second Thursday of the month, starting in February.
Okay. Is that suitable for everyone, or do we need to potentially make any changes to that? Ms. Breckus, are you
Yeah,
trying to figure
no,
out?
I am going to work very hard to not have Historic Resources Commission on these meeting days, because they always get me running away from here early, so I am hopeful.
Okay.
Tell me this, Director Smith, do we always have these meetings, or is it like Tumwa, we have some on the books and we have a practice of not meeting on some of these?
Jeremy Smith for the record. We plan to always have them unless there are no items, and then
Okay.
we wouldn't. Yeah.
Okay,
But yes, it's the 6 meetings per year.
okay, and then if we don't have business, we can certainly work on some of the long-range planning, reports on the plans and
Correct.
so on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, if we don't have a quorum either, then that obviously presents a problem for us. So I'm looking for an adoption.
Second,
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
There's an echo in here. It's like being in a baseball stadium. I have a motion by Mr. Reese. The first second that I heard was Ms. Dewar. Is there any other discussion on this item? Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay, I will close public comment, bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 7, business of the day. This is a public hearing. Mr. Smith, I will let you take us into this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 7A is a public hearing, Regional Plan Amendment, RPA 21-007, Rock Springs Solar, possible adoption of RPGB Resolution 21-12 regarding a mapping amendment to Map 3 of the 2019 Regional Plan to add a new regional utility site. The site is located on plus or minus 660 contiguous acres across 9 parcels, located approximately 45 miles northwest of Reno, near Flanagan. For this, we have a presentation from Regional Planner Shawnee Sousa.
Ms. Sousa, welcome.
Hello. Good afternoon, board members. Shawnee Sousa, Team RPA for the record. As Director Smith said, I'll be taking you through the regional plan amendment for Rock Springs Solar. This case is an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. This is for the addition of a new facility that generates electricity greater than 5 megawatts. It's also to include the addition of a new substation. RPC and staff recommend that the proposed amendment conforms with the 2019 regional plan. To your right, you can see the regional form map within the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan, and the site is located 45 miles northwest of Reno, near Flanagan. This slide shows an overview of the proposed site and substation, which is approximately 660 contiguous acres across 9 parcels. This is in the rural area where we expect to see very low density occurring. In September, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners unanimously sponsored this amendment. And earlier this week, the RPC recommended the RPGB adopt the amendment and determined that the associated PRS also conformed. A couple of policies we'd like to highlight are PF18, Regional Renewable Energy Generation, and our NR2, Resilient Region. These require local government master plans to include policies and strategies that address renewable energy, sustainability, and resiliency within our region. So here's a closer look at the site. Our site is on the west side. It's highlighted in orange. That's the Rock Springs proposed site. And then to the east is the Fish Springs solar site, which was approved in 2020 by RPC and RPGB, just for a little context. You can also see the existing regional utility corridor, which goes through the site. This is an RPA because policy PF11 requires that all regional utility corridors and sites be mapped, and that a regional plan amendment be required for their establishment. Policy RC10 within the regional plan identifies the 7 criteria that RPC and RPGB must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment. We found that the proposed amendment conforms with the criteria, and we also have a little more analysis to go through and highlight for you. So for regional capacities and growth projections, we wanted to point out that this proposal not only supports the regional plan and the forecasted growth projections, but also Bill 358, which requires the state to generate 50% of its electricity from renewable resources by 2030. The next one we want to highlight is existing and planned public facility and service availability, timing adequacy, and fiscal impacts. When looking at this, as I mentioned, this supports policy PF18, Regional Renewable Energy Generation, and the project is self-contained, so it has no impacts to TMSA services extending to the subject site. Next is natural resources. As I also mentioned, policy NR2 Resilient Region is also supported through this amendment. Additionally, during Washoe County's process, they included circulation of the application to other agencies, such as Nevada Department of Wildlife and State Historic Preservation Office, and other environmental agencies. They got comments from them and also are going to coordinate throughout the project to ensure that this works out. Then finally, when looking at the health and welfare of the community as well as the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan, we believe that this is a benefit to our community to increase renewable energy generation. So the proposed motion is on the screen for you, or you can find it on page 17 of your meeting packet as well. This concludes my presentation. Staff from Team RPA as well as Washoe County are available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great presentation. Board, do we have any questions on this item? Okay, fairly quotidian. Do we have a we have any public comment, Mr. Clerk? On item 7A?
I have not received any for item 7A.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. We are supportive of this at Washoe County, and we hope that you will be too, so I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay,
I move to adopt RPGB Resolution 21-12 regarding an amendment to map 3 of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan as detailed in the staff report.
okay, thank you. I have a motion by Ms. Vanderwell. Did I hear a second by you, Ms. Herman? Okay, I have a motion by Vanderwell, second by Herman. Is there
Mr.
any?
Chair, quick question. Is that
Ms.
what you were asking?
Ms. Stewart?
I just wanted to ask, this is about the amendment to the regional plan. But what I was wondering is, for the county side, do you then permit this in a different way at all? Or what happens there?
I believe this has to be permitted by the state, does it not, Mr. Smith?
I believe there's a governance aspect of the PUCN, as well as a permit for the site conditions through Washoe County would be
Right.
my
So there's a
understanding.
Washoe County and a
We
state.
permit the site itself.
That's what I
but
was
the-
asking.
But the solar facilities and the power generation are all through the state.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay? Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us now, Mr. Smith,
Thank
to, thank you, Shawnee. That takes us now to item 7B, public hearing of the Regional Plan Amendment, RPA 21-005. Mr. Smith, would you take us into that item, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. It's a public hearing item 7B, Regional Plan Amendment RPA 21-005, Mogul Sphere of Influence, or SOI, Removal Amendment, possible adoption of RPGB Resolution 21-11 regarding a mapping amendment to Map 1 to remove 2 parcels totaling plus or minus 27.9 acres from the City of Reno's Sphere of Influence boundary. For this item, we have a presentation from Regional Planner Chris Tolley.
Good afternoon.
Hold on a second. Mr. Tully, just give me just 1 minute. Before we get into this, members, I want to remind you what we're here to look at. We're here to look at, because I know that we're probably going to want to stray off, we're here to look at a rollback of the SOI. This does not contemplate what could potentially go on the parcel, and it doesn't contemplate the potential master plan amendment that will be required, so I'm told, to move the parcel into, or to take the parcel back into the industrial zoning, which is the underlying zoning. So we're here to talk about the SOI itself. So, forgive me, Nate, go ahead, proceed. Chris,
Yep,
forgive me.
no worries. So once again, good afternoon, governing board members, Chris Tolley, Team RPA. This item is, as mentioned, is a regional plan amendment for the Mogul SOI removal. And that case number, as Jeremy mentioned, was RPA 21-005. So this proposal contains 2 elements: a regional plan amendment to remove 2 parcels totaling 27.9 acres from the City of Reno's sphere of influence, which you are considering in this item, and a master plan amendment to remove the existing City of Reno land use designation and analyze the corresponding Washoe County Master Plan land use designation, which the RPC considered at their meeting on Monday, December 6th. The RPC voted to recommend adoption of the proposed amendment and to approve the conformance review by a vote of 8-1. The subject parcels are located on the south side of Interstate 80 off Exit 7 and north of Mogul Road within the Tier 2 regional land designation. The RPC and regional planning staff both recommend adoption of the amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. At the RPC's meeting on Monday, we heard a few comments from staff and the RPC members that we believe are important to share as part of this presentation. First, certain development types are permittable in both the City of Reno that wouldn't necessitate a public meeting for a land use entitlement, and this is the same case for Washoe County. Second, the mixed employment land use in the City of Reno supports both light industrial and commercial uses. And finally, the subject site is located in Tier 2 and has been slated for development since before a regional plan existed. And then to go over policy RC2, which is regarding sphere of influence. This policy specifies that the regional plan adopts the SOI for Reno and Sparks, and they are shown on map 1 of the regional plan. A change to a city's SOI constitutes a RPA and requires analysis of the corresponding master plan land use that will be established on the site. The policy also identifies several requirements that local governments must confer regarding the potential SOI amendment, which this has happened for the case, provide rationale for the request, which the owner has requested the rollback to develop the site under Washoe County's jurisdiction, and an accompanying master plan amendment must be submitted to establish the appropriate planning authority, which Washoe County is committed to pursuing a master plan amendment once the land is under their jurisdiction. And then this actually shows the sphere of influence as it exists today and as is proposed to exist. So that top one shows the existing, the bottom map shows the proposed, and then also, as part of this, the sphere of influence that covers the Interstate 80 right-of-way would also be removed. That's just a sub-point. And then as a reminder, give me 1 second. So we're going to close the presentation by addressing the review criteria, but first we'll remind the RPGB and members of the public that the RPA, or the Regional Plan Amendment, is considering the removal of the subject site from the city's SOI, or sphere of influence. So policy RC10 identifies the 7 criteria that the RPC and RPGB must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment, and we'll step through these, highlighting a few of the criteria. So as mentioned, the site is located in Tier 2 and has been planned for non-residential development since before a regional plan was adopted. And we expect facilities and services to serve the site are present, as indicated by the City of Reno staff. And then although a very small amount of development constraints area exists on the subject site, the parcels will be subject to the Washoe County Master Plan policies, which address development constraints area requirements. And then finally, the proposal seeks to remove the Reno SOI from the subject parcels and is not anticipated to impact the vision, goals, and policies of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. And the proposal to remove the subject parcels from Reno's SOI will not negatively impact the health and welfare of the community. And in summary, regional planning staff found that the proposed SOI rollback is not expected to impact any of the listed criteria. And that takes us to the proposed motion. So in conclusion, the item requires one motion, which is located on the screen or on page 36 of the meeting packet. This does conclude staff's presentation. However, Team RPA, City of Reno, and Washoe County staff are available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tully, hold on just a second here, Mr. Lawson. The applicant is the City of Reno, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, all right, because I thought I heard you say something different earlier, so I misheard. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure of that. Mr. Lawson, the floor is yours.
I'm looking through the maps here. Is this contiguous to the city of Reno? Could it be annexed at this time?
It could be, they would have to go through a process for annexing, but it could, yes. Due to the fact that it is within their sphere of influence, they could annex it.
But it would be an island?
It wouldn't be an island. If I could get back to the map. Hold on, let me show you.
That's where, I didn't see where Reno.
Yeah, Mr.
boundary
Chair, if I may.
ended.
Yes, yes, please. Mr.
From looking at the maps, I believe that the contiguity for annexation would potentially be connected via a roadway. I don't think it's adjacent to the City of Reno boundary. It's adjacent to other City of Reno sphere of influence areas.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, but no contiguous boundary with the city.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hold-
Mr.
hold-
Chair.
Hold on just a second. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Lawson? Okay, Ms. Stewart.
Yeah, I had a similar question, but I just wondered, do you actually have a map or does someone else of the areas that are in the city of Reno, to Mr.
We-
Lawson's point?
I could look to see if it appears on this map.
Mr.
That's
Chair,
our
if I may.
chair boundary.
If needed, Chris could control it, or I'd be happy to do it. We could probably access the internet and go to our online regional planning
Yeah.
layers map, and we can turn those layers
That's what I
on and
thought.
see them.
Could you do
Sure.
that?
Yeah, Chris, you want to give it a shot? And
Yep.
I'll help you if needed.
Because I took a look at it, and I didn't, you said it's separated by a road, but what I recalled was the sphere was separated from the sphere, but I didn't think on the other side of the road was city. So that's what I want to
It's
see.
it's not the city.
Correct.
The other
Well,
side
I'm
is
pretty sure,
unincorporated.
but I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure on the maps, and especially since Mr. Lawson asked a question too, so.
Go for it. Mine's still loading.
Yes, yeah, please.
Damien, I'll try to explain what we're seeing here. So Damien, correct me if I'm wrong, but the light blue area is the existing Reno sphere of influence area, and the dark blue area is the Reno city limits. And if you could click on the big parcel so they could see it and kind of select it right there, that is the area in question, the subject site.
Right. But the subject site, I mean, the light blue is showing that it's touching dark blue on the right or
The
east side.
the parcels do not, though.
That's what I was wondering. Do you have the parcels?
Can you
in?
turn on parcels, Damien?
Might have to zoom
I
in.
know we're all saying it. I just
There you
would like
go.
to see a picture of it.
Zoom in a
Thank
little
you.
more, please. So there's the two parcels, that little triangle, and then the one to the right of it. And you can see it's surrounded by either unincorporated Washoe County, which doesn't have a color, or Reno sphere of influence, which is the light blue.
But thank you.
could.
Yes?
Ms. Precious.
A point of clarification to Mayor Lawson's initial question is, would it create an island? There's a difference between what creates an island and what is contiguous. And to my understanding, something that is non-contiguous but does not create an island is still eligible for annexation, if it is within an annexation program.
Sure, Winnemucca Ranch.
No, wrong. That's, Winnemucca Ranch was, you're going back a few years, but I believe that
Sorry,
was
but
the
that's-
crux of the issue on Winnemucca Ranch. But you know, I
Yeah,
think that's
Angela.
a correct,
Okay.
I see some of our staff on, they might be able
Okay,
to.
would you like Ms. Foos to answer? Ms. Foos?
Hi, this is Angela Foos. I'm the Assistant Director for Development Services with the City of Reno. So a couple things. We do not currently have an active annexation program. Our annexation program expired in 2017. So with that in mind, we do not have an annexation program. I think back to Mr. Smith's comment, the connection for this parcel is to the very kind of southeast corner of Somerset, and that connection would be through the right-of-way, the I-80 right-of-way. But other than that, we don't have any parcels around this particular piece that are within the city of Reno.
Okay, all right, Mr. Lawson. So, I'm in favor of rollback of the SOI. I've said this before, and in fact, I lobbied the city of Sparks, and I see one of the representatives in the city of Sparks that I had numerous conversations with prior to the last regional plan update, and the city of Sparks rolled back their SOI in Spanish Springs, where you could not have those property owners serving two masters. It was just too difficult. And so it was it was a great move for both property owners and for Washoe County, because I'll give you a perfect example. There was a special event. They had to go to the city of Sparks for the permit, but yet Washoe County was the one who was responsible for code enforcement. And it was a nightmare for the city of Sparks and police, right? And so it was a nightmare for the city of Sparks because they had no knowledge of this, and it was a nightmare for Washoe County and for Washoe County surrounding residents because it all had to be dealt with through the city of Sparks. So I'm very supportive of rolling back the SOI just in general. Ms. Breckus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna, where we're at on discussion, but since we have discussion, I did not support this at City of Reno, and I said I would take a look at it anew when we got here. And I have supported rollback of the SOI, most recently up in that Mesa Drive area, where you had residents who were in a permitting problem. So it's worth looking at, but this may be a completely different scenario where you're seeing something that's very devastating to the framework for the regional planning, and that's jurisdiction shopping. I'll just leave it at that. I wish we had an updated annexation plan. I even wish we had an updated Verdi plan. As a matter of fact, I advocated on the queue of Washoe County Community Development staff in 2014 when West Meadows came in. They went on record saying, update the Verdi plan. Let's update the Verdi plan. I want to update the Verdi plan. Then we would have clarity on this. But, you know, priorities are what priorities are for the city and any government body, and we haven't done that work. So we have to take these on very ad hoc situations. And I want to hear the comments because I don't know where I stand on this. I'm very concerned about jurisdiction shopping. There's long history of that being undermining the regional planning process. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Ms. Dewar.
Yeah, thank you. I just, for the good of the order, I also did not support this at the City of Reno, but I also put out there that I didn't have much information, frankly, when it came to the City of Reno. We didn't have the maps and the detail. What I generally heard was from the public and their concern, but I had really nothing else to go on. And at that time, I said I would wait for this meeting to get more information. So I too, I'm looking forward to hearing from the public, the applicant, and just to better understand the project. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to get a couple of things on the table first. The current overlay is ME, Ms. Foos, which is mixed employment, correct?
Correct. The current master plan is a City of Reno master plan of mixed employment.
Right, which is mixed employment. Would you define mixed employment for me?
Yeah,
Tell
let
me some of the
me.
things that are available in mixed employment.
Yep, so mixed employment, again, it's a master planned land use, so it's not a zoning, but mixed employment allows for light industrial, business parks, light manufacturing, processing, wholesale, research and development, and office.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
So, Mr. Chair?
May I
Yeah, I was
complete
just-
my questions?
I didn't know you were done. I was going to ask
Thank
you a
you.
question.
Thank you, I appreciate that. This goes into, when the SOI gets rolled back, it comes into the county, not as industrial, which is the underlying land use, and I think do I have you on the line, Mr. Lloyd? Are you available?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Trevor Lloyd, Planning Manager, Washoe County.
So our underlying land use that has been assigned to this parcel for, to my ability to look back, has been probably since the 80s. Industrial.
What we have, if I could answer that question, yeah, what you have on this property right now, it's an interesting dynamic. The zoning that currently exists and has existed, like you're right, since probably the 80s is an industrial zoning category. Now that the issue is when it comes back to, assuming it comes back to Washoe County, it'll come back with a commercial master plan land use designation, but an industrial zoning. And so in that event, Washoe County will initiate a master plan amendment to ensure that there's a consistent zoning and land use category on the same property.
Okay, so it's an industrial zoning, but a master plan of commercial.
That is correct, based on the translation table of the regional plan.
Okay, now, one last question, and then I'll allow Ms. Dewar the floor. If Washoe County says, okay, commercial is okay, we can seek a commercial use instead of going back to industrial. Am I correct in that?
When it comes back, again, if it's brought back to Washoe County and the SOI is rolled back, it will come in with an industrial zoning. The applicants can apply for a use type under the industrial uses. However, we will process a master plan amendment. We do not anticipate to process a regulatory zone amendment because that zoning of industrial already exists.
I see.
So the intent is to bring it in under an industrial master plan land use.
Okay. All right, all right, I'll figure this out later. Ms. Dewar?
Yeah, thank you, because you are, we're proceeding along the lines and I'm just gonna continue on. So this is where it gets a little different. In Reno, if something has a one zoning, and it's not conforming with the commercial master plan zoning, at least my understanding of what we do in Reno is we would make them bring the zoning to conform with the master plan, not change the master plan to conform with the zoning. And I just want to get clarity on that. Is that right, Angela?
So no, again, Angela Foos for the record. If a property comes in with a zoning, they are allowed to move forward with development based on that zoning. We do not require that they, as the applicant, make the zoning match the master plan. We have a lot of what we call these inconsistencies, parcels where the zoning does not match the master plan. But from a development perspective, the zoning dictates how the site will be developed.
Well, okay, I'm just gonna seek some clarity then, because there's been a lot of, we changed the master plan, for example, in the Lakeside area, okay, Lakeside, Moana area, and then you said everything is non-conforming, and they had to conform, you said they're out of conformance, and they had to conform with the master plan, not stay with what they are. You've told us over and over they're non-conforming, they have to bring themselves into a conforming zone with the master plan, so now I'm a little bit confused.
So we don't require it. If an applicant chooses to move forward and change their zoning so that it does match the master plan, they can do that. We don't charge a fee. We still process a zone change or a zoning map amendment. We don't require that the applicant do that, though.
Okay, but somebody would need to do it, but we don't require that the applicant do it? No.
No, nobody has to do it. If they want to change their zoning so that it matches their master plan, we process that. They submit an application and they go through the process. We
Right.
do not require that anyone does that.
Okay, so in this case, getting back to this case, I just want to make sure I understand. So we roll back, that's the point, if we roll back the sphere, it is sitting here with a commercial master plan, industrial zoning, they're non-conforming, is that correct for the county? Those don't go together?
Jeremy Smith, for the record, I would just say that the commercial land use category in Washoe County does not include industrial zoning categories in it. That's
That was my
true.
question. Thank you. So, but that's okay, I guess, in the county. They could still move forward with the industrial project per the zoning. Okay, all right. I just wanted to understand what it all meant. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from any other board members? Mr. Lucy or Ms. Jarden, do you have any questions before I move to the other end of the dais?
Chair Hartung, thank you very much, and thank you all for allowing me to be here. This is my first regional planning meeting. It's pretty exciting. I did just want to give some clarity. There was some assertions made earlier that there was potentially some jurisdiction shopping. That was, I'm the ward representative that oversees this area, and that certainly wasn't the case from my perspective. It was more of a bring it forward and see what the council's decisions and choices were with regards to which sort of path we wanted to see this go, and it was the council's vote that brings it to this body. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lucy, anything from you? Okay.
Mr. Chair, is
I'm gonna
it
assume-
appropriate?
Hold on just a
Okay.
second. Ms. Breckus, did you have your hand up next?
Yeah, I did. As I recall, one of the nuances that made this particularly interesting was that a procedure under whichever pick you go with was that the city of Reno has a procedure that you would expect in a suburban urban environment which is one, taking a closer look at intensive non-residential uses like industrial adjacent to residential communities, regardless if those are incorporated or not incorporated. And that involves a special use permit issuance by the Planning Commission, where a greater level of discretion and application of policies is applied versus something that is purely ministerial, administrative by staff, where judgment is not applied, just standards of the zoning code. So I think that was material. It's very nuanced, and the issue I struggle with is, we are in an area of real spotty jurisdictional boundary, whether it's SOI, whether it's an unincorporated land, where it's annexed land, and what is the best, body to oversee and shepherd through development in that kind of setting. And so those are some of the issues that I think were material, and the procedure certainly was material. But let me ask you, because you didn't put up an aerial on this, in this packet, like you did, remember the last time we had one? I don't see one as I scan through. Did you have an aerial? I didn't see one.
I believe there is one. I certainly have one in the presentation.
Maybe, you know what, maybe it was in the Regional Planning Commission packet, and I just have the rolled up one for this body. Or maybe I didn't go far enough.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Please.
On the Bates stamp at the bottom right, the red, page 47 of the packet has an aerial.
Oh, okay.
But I
okay.
don't believe we put one in the presentation, but I think we could pull that up if you'd like us to pull it up on the screen.
There is one.
Yeah, I see
Okay,
it. I
thank
see
you,
it.
Chris.
Yeah. Now, the area to the like where Mario Road is and all that, that's Belli Ranch, correct? Is that the unincorporated community of Belli Ranch?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you go, how far do you go to this, because it is splotchy, that's why I thought we should redo the Verdi neighbor area plan, is how far past Mario Road do you go to where the city of Reno just approved the massive Quilisi-Santera project?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Angela, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, I was going to pull that up. It's several miles.
Uh-huh. And what freeway access do all these share?
What freeway access?
Yeah, how does the access off of I-80,
For this one is exit 7.
7.
and that's the
then
Mogul?
Santara Quilisi one, I don't believe that they can access through this, but I'm not certain.
Okay,
about that.
okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, if we have no other questions, what I'd like to do is open up public comment.
All right, so far I have received 5 for in-person and then 1 digitally, and that was Gideon Kaplowitz. So Gideon, if you will just hang tight, we're going to give the folks who are here in person, we'll let them comment first, and then you'll be up next.
Okay,
So first I have is Barbara Feen. Is it Feen? Fene? And then after that will be Chris Ingstrom.
Mr. Tully, can you pull your computer? Is that your computer?
Yep.
Just, yeah,
Hmm?
there you go. Thank you.
Set it.
Yeah. Somebody will feel really bad if they inadvertently knock it off. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Barbara Fenney. I am with the Mogul Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to talk to you about our situation there. If Mogul Road was a separate, isolated section of Washoe County with no safety issues and no one living in this rural area, then I would say your conscience would be free to make this area an industrial zone with mega buildings and heavy traffic. Mogul Road is not compatible for semis and heavy trucks. A vote in favor of proceeding defies your posted mission statement, working together regionally to provide and sustain a safe, secure, and healthy community. Traffic could be cut off for resident access and egress. The developer's parcel is situated next to two small mixed employment properties, two railroad tracks, Interstate 80 entrances and exits, an approved new trailhead, the Truckee River, and two 95-acre open recreation spaces bordered by the Toyabe Forest. Historically significant on the developer's property include a Truckee River Emigrant Trail crossing sign and the Transcontinental Lincoln Highway. Nearby, the Great Train Robbery, the Transcontinental Railroad, and the Donner Party encampments. Federal, state, and local signage. As a touted responsible member who works with community, will the developer link Mogul concerns and build a truly outstanding area that helps serve the safety of community, honors the historical legacy, safeguards recreation areas and access while serving his purpose? Can you justify putting Washoe County and Reno residents at more risk and the lawsuits that will validate the City of Reno and Mogul residents' documented reasons not to allow industrial development to proceed, negating safety constraints by ignoring our safety concerns? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, next up, I have Chris Ingstrom, and then after that will be Emanuela Heller McNeilage.
Chris, we have the same.
I think he has this one. Okay.
Oh. I see.
I'll show you. Let's do this differently. There we go.
Ms. Engstrom, how are you?
My name is Chris Engstrom. I live in Mogul and have lived there since, well, a long time, 30 years. We all know the city of Reno took the main lead of expanding west from Reno out to past into Verdi now. And it was puzzling to us that they want to let this area go. You can see by this map, the little red thing is the area in question, and all the little light blue is the city's responsibility, and so wondering why they gave that up. And my biggest concern, whether the city does this or the county does this, is this traffic. And we have, as you know, 4 freeway ramps, 5-way intersection, 2 ungated trains, the bike trail goes through, there's a school bus stop, and now the county's going to even develop the recreation even more. Particularly of concern is the westbound entrance. It's just too short. It's 230 feet, and it's supposed to be greater than 300 to 500 feet. And we have this, and I printed it, and look at all the color wasted. I didn't mean to do that. If anybody wants this poster, the recommended speed is supposed to be 60, and trucks, and it's not just 18-wheelers, because I know that the buyer says we're not gonna have 18-wheelers, but there's trucks already in Mogul delivering things, and we can't, school buses can't get up to speed on that, so it's just totally out of code, or whatever the word would be. We have crash data here for westbound compared to eastbound, and then now RTC says it's going to even get 5 times busier. So we know that this is a bad traffic area. Many of you have seen it. You've been out there, and we appreciate you coming to look at it. It needs to be elongated to make that westbound safer. Who's gonna pay for it? If the county gets it, are you gonna get federal relief money? The underpass has to be updated to avoid future liability. I know you went over in your presentation, Chris, the 7 things, and I don't see how number 1 and number 7 were met. The health and welfare of the community for sure not. So I know that the big conversation is this industrial versus zoning, and it's actually quite entertaining to see how no one really knows what's gonna happen. Although we know it's gonna go to industrial, and that is not conducive to what we have in Mogul at this point compared to in the 80s, when Mogul was barely existed at that point. And so the traffic, the zoning, what is the buyer gonna do? Why does he really want it to be in the county? It's why. What's gonna change between what the city would allow him to do? And so, I don't know. If we don't want it to be industrial, I'm gonna say that you should vote no today on moving this.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Engstrom.
Okay, next up, we have Emanuela Heller McNeilage, and then after that will be Tom Potts.
Welcome, Ms. McNeilage.
Emanuela Heller McNeilage, for the record. Dear Council, dear Chairman, I cannot make findings 1, 5, and 7 of RC10 either. In 2019, the city had turned down a development and SUP because of incompatibility with surrounding uses and traffic. In 2018, the city of Reno had already denied the removal from the sphere because of a lack of public hearing process in Washoe County. This year, city reversed its course and voted to remove it from the sphere, which would most likely preclude any public hearings because in the county there are different triggers for SUPs like cuts and fills. And there may be exemptions available to avoid a special use permit for major grading. When you have natural slopes that are higher than 30%, but you put them under a paved area, you can get around the special use permit. And just to correct, to this day in the city of Reno, you would still need a special use permit for filling and grading. The advantages for the buyer in the county are clear. He can avoid a major use SUP for major grading, and therefore avoid a public hearing that is related to the project. So please don't misunderstand me. I know there will be more public hearings in the county, but those will address master plan amendment, zoning changes from commercial to industrial. They will not hear us and our concerns about traffic and safety. Like today, like you said in the beginning, Mr. Hartung, and our comments will be deemed irrelevant from the beginning on. So this is just not only a rollback decision, this has also consequences. And I just want to briefly mention the staff report that talks about the main rationale for leaving the sphere. You said yourself, the main rationale is an important point in this process here for the amendment. The main rationale to leave the sphere in the staff report says that the buyer desires it. The buyer is not even the applicant. And the main rationale of the city is not even mentioned in the staff report. This was the proximity to the fire station, which did not play a role in Verdi or West Reno, and this did not play a role in 2018, so what has changed? We have this time a very well-connected local buyer. He wants to buy this for a huge price, and the sale is contingent of the parcels going to the county. This property is only worth that much money if developed in the county where public input related to a specific project can be bypassed. So please leave the parcels in the city. The city took the lead in developing way out west, servicing past Mogul. It needs to follow through, and instead of picking, clean up the zoning issues and SOIs to avoid a patchwork of jurisdiction. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, then next up we have Tom Potts, and the last in-person public comment I have received a card for will be Jill Dobbs after that.
Mr. Potts. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Tom Potts. I live in Mogul. We've lived there for 35 years. I'm a brakeman for the Sacramento Southern Railroad in Sacramento, California. Been there about 3 years. So I want to give you an idea of how dangerous the railroad is, being so close to a project like this. The railroad at the crossing, you only have 20 seconds between the time those gates come down and the train is there. Railroad train runs on steel wheels and steel rails. Most of those trains are carrying cargo off of cargo ships from the Bay Area. They can weigh as much as a battleship. 20 seconds, that's not enough time to stop. It's going to probably stop in over a quarter of a mile. Another problem is that you probably don't realize it, but those trains are like maybe a half mile long. And you think that they're full of guys getting ready. There's only 2 people on that train. There's the engineer, and then there's the conductor. They're both in front. So when an accident happens, it takes them a long ways to just walk all the way back to the accident. If you get caught in an accident with a railroad train, you're gonna be sitting there underneath your car for a long time as they try to get back to see what they hit, because it happens so fast. It's 40 miles an hour through that area. The trains are so heavy that they just can't stop in time. They'll put on, what the engineer will do, he immediately put on the brakes as soon as he sees there's trouble. But then the brakes, air has to flow through the whole train, and it takes time for the brakes to set up all the way, and then they just grind to a halt. So I'm hoping that you'll be careful with the safety of this. I just have a feeling somebody's gonna get hurt here. The tracks are just a mere feet from this project. And if something bad happens, I'm doing my best to try to keep you to be careful, but I hope you do the right thing on that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the last in-person I have is Jill Dobbs, and after that, we will go to the one I have via Zoom, and that will be Gideon Kaplowitz.
Welcome, Ms. Dobbs.
Good afternoon. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this board. I know many of you through multiple positions I hold in our community, including the Washoe County Board of Commissioners appointed me to the Washoe County Regional Animal Services Board. So I do a lot of community work through there. I'm also a lawyer and the executive director of the SPCA of Northern Nevada. I am here in front of you today as a private citizen and a resident of Mogul, as well as a resident of Reno, born and raised in this area, 4th generation, actually. I completely concur with all prior comments made on this topic earlier today. The entire reason these 2 parcels, and just these 2 parcels, seek removal from the SOI is to approve gargantuan industrial, ugly, dangerous development. That's why this whole process is being implemented just for those 2 parcels. And I think that's a really important designation to remind everyone about. Mr. Hartung's opening comments are not applicable to this particular SOI issue, as Ms. Breckus so eloquently brought up. There is no public agency conflict here. Please listen to Ms. Breckus's concerns regarding jurisdiction shopping, undermining the regional planning process, because that is exactly what is happening here. The vision for the critical Truckee Meadows Western Corridor is to remain beautiful and welcoming to our tourist-based economy and prevent an unattractive hodgepodge of development and scattered jurisdiction, following that checkerboard pattern that I thought for the last few decades we've been trying to avoid. There are appropriate scale and type of commercial projects that could celebrate our beautiful river corridor and attract positive visitors, while also addressing concerns of residents and ensuring that your mission is met of a safe, secure, and healthy community. I know you are not the county commissioners, but you are made up of some of them, and I believe this board follows that same mission. The city of Reno acknowledged 1.5 years ago that its sphere of influence is what ensured the community was listened to regarding our health and safety concerns about proposed industrial development on these parcels. That the county would have otherwise approved industrial development that was very dangerous and inappropriate without listening to residents. So I have to echo the concern of what has changed. these two parcels need to remain as part of the sphere of influence. This is our western entry into our community. It is right next to I-80, and it's what people will see. So again, it doesn't make sense to remove just these two parcels from the sphere of influence. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all I've received for in-person public comment. Unless you want to comment, you could fill out a digital or a public comment card. We're now going to take it over to the digital public comment I've received. And so far, that's just the one, and that is Gideon Kaplowitz. So I'm going to let you into the meeting so you have the ability to share your screen and show video and everything you would like. So please accept the invitation to promote to panelists when I point you to panelist, and make sure you're squared away for comment.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen here very quickly. If you see my notes or you see the screen that I intend to use, my name is Gideon Kaplowitz, and I just want to thank my friends and neighbors for their eloquent comments on this project or sphere of influence agenda item. I have slides here about findings and things, but in hearing the conversation, this really boils down to something very, very simple. The term jurisdictional shopping was used. That's what this is. I've never heard that term before. To me, it's called a temper tantrum. We had developers bring a god-awful project before the city. It was rightfully denied. They sued the city. They didn't get what they wanted. And so now they're coming before you. They believe, or we sort of know this already, everybody in this room knows this, that if this goes through, the parcel will be sold to S3, the developer. The current owner, who is not the applicant, he's not the, it's just totally, I grew up in New York and New Jersey, we had a term for this, it's called corruption. And the really nasty thing about corruption is that the worst part of corruption is not the corruption itself, it's the public perception of corruption. That's the toxicity. And I think all of you guys who are in here know this, you know it in your souls. There's this expression, there's something fishy in Denmark. Well, God, it stinks of fish. And, I was very involved in city West Reno, Verdi issues. And when the city voted to let this out of their sphere of influence, it just hurt me so dang deep in my heart that I just threw my hands up. And, I think it's just enough. And you can equivocate, you can go for, I don't know what you want to call it. You can talk yourself that this isn't corruption. This isn't jurisdictional shopping. This isn't a temper tantrum. This isn't about Mr. Bengochia making money when he made a bad business deal. It's not about bailing him out. And we say, oh, well, look, it's sphere of influence. This is how we want to go forward with things. But we all know what it is. And so rather than talk yourself into a yes on this, let's go forward. You should really be doing some soul searching and figuring out how to talk yourself into no on this. And as my neighbors have pointed out, there are more than one of those 7 conditions or findings that you can very easily not make. So with that, I will say thank you for your time and good luck.
Any others?
I have not received any other in-person or digital comment cards at this time.
All right, I'm going to bring it back to the board. I'm going to close public comment. So here's reality. This is not Washoe County asking for this. This is a request by the city of Reno. Washoe County has no dog in this fight as far as an SOI rollback. There's no benefit to Washoe County for us to put additional work into this and go through this process. That is just simply not true. Simply not true. Washoe County did not approach the city of Reno and say, hey, you guys, vote this down and let's roll back the SOI. That is just simply not so. There was also a statement that was made that the county will bypass the public process. That is also simply not so. The county will not bypass the public process. There is a process in place. Property owners have rights just like you do. Everyone has rights here. And so the property owners have rights, and so we are following what code has established. There's no benefit to us personally in terms of Washoe County. So I will open it back up for discussion and a direction if we have any other questions of staff. Ms. Herman.
I believe my mic is on. Okay, I have been out to the property. It looks like, you know, the people that have spoken today so eloquently, I agree with that, and I see their concerns. I know that we're supposed to be just thinking about what's written on the paper here, but just the SOI removal, approval kind of thing. But I tend to agree with the folks. I think that from what I hear from the members from Reno City Council, that maybe they were a little apprehensive about what they did after it happened, you know. So I'm just thinking that maybe this kind of, that was a jump of the gun or whatever you want to call it, and maybe the city of Reno could take it and keep it and do a better job than the county. I'm not so sure that, you know, just, that's about all I have to say. But I will not vote for it.
Okay, Ms. Stewart.
Yeah, so bottom line, I have great concerns about what might go on this site. We've had it discussed that the city of Reno, I believe it was unanimously, voted down a proposed project. We voted, though, to sponsor a sphere change. So putting those two things together, there are possibilities of what could go on this site, and one was proposed to us, and we did not agree with it at City of Reno. But if it does leave the City of Reno jurisdiction, it will go to the permitting by the county, and I have confidence in the county. You know, I think that you will wear the same kind of hat. If you're presented with a project similar to the one that we turned down, you would likely turn it down. On the other hand, if you were presented with a project that is more relevant and workable with the area there, you might approve it. And that's where I have to go. We had a similar case in South Reno where the group came into the city. It was in my ward. They wanted to be annexed in, and the annexation, it was a sliver of a property, would have touched the South Reno on a point. So there was no like contiguous land, it was just touching on a point. And I was not interested in doing that. I said that best belongs to the county, and that is what happened. We did not annex it, and it did go forward under county review. So there's no assurances, you know, what kind of project will come in, but I have to, you know, rely on my colleagues that you're going to use your brains and your heart and listen to your people. I mean, this property is in the county, hasn't been annexed to the city. And you already have jurisdiction that way. And I understand this issue of if a property is developed in the county, they would still have to use the city's building code. That's the kind of issue, when it's in the sphere, that's the kind of issue that was faced by residents down in South Reno. So with all of that in mind, I would love to hear from the applicant, because I think I know we're not here to talk about a project, but you know, it still wouldn't hurt to hear from them, you know, and I don't know if you're interested in that, Mr.
Well, the city of Reno is the applicant.
Yes. Well, I mean, the owner's representatives have 4 people here, it looks like.
But again, and I'm.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm torn, and I will be very honest with you, very, very honest. I don't have an issue with rolling the SOI back. I do have an issue with the current land use of being industrial, because I think the site is greatly constrained in terms of ingress, egress, and access. I think
Yeah.
it's greatly constrained, and those are the kinds of things that I will look at should it be removed from the SOI, and then there's requests made. Those are the situations. Right now, I am bound by what is in front of us, which is a
Right.
rollback of the SOI. So I don't,
Right.
we cannot talk about a project. Hold on, Ms. Breckus. There is
Right.
no project.
No, correct. And
Miss-
so-
Miss- Stop, please, for a second.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Prunty, would you give us some guidelines, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. The matter before you is a sphere of influence removal brought forward by the city of Reno. There is not a project in front of you at this point in time. This is a body of special and limited jurisdiction. You have no jurisdiction to dictate or require anything as far as the underlying zoning on any of the land. So this is essentially a jurisdictional swap at this point in time. And that's the matter before you, and you have to decide it on the factors set forth in the staff report under RC 10.
All right, thank you. Could I make
Okay.
a final comment then?
Please, go ahead and then Ms.
Okay,
Breckus.
so that's what I thought. That's why I've asked you these questions, that we can't talk about a project, but that hasn't held back the applicant from talking about, or the potential owners from talking about a project. But anyway, bottom line, whether it's our hat or your hat, I have confidence in you representing your citizens that are part of the county, unincorporated county, to do the right thing and to hear them loud and clear. And so that is why I'm, especially given the fact that it would be very difficult, I mean, it's not that it's impossible to annex it, but I've already shown you, over my history, I have declined to annex this type of property that is adjacent to my ward. And so, I'm trying to be very consistent in my application of what I do. So, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Breckus, go ahead.
Yeah, and, I don't need to hear from the property owner. I think it's out of practice, and, the applicant, the city, and, certainly the chair has illustrated how he views it too. So I think we have a good idea about that, the perspective that they're bringing. But, when it was at Reno, I didn't have these regional plan findings in front of me, and number 7 is intergovernmental impacts. And I think there's significant intergovernmental impacts in letting this be a one-off rolled out of the sphere in an area where those bubble diagrams one of the public speakers showed is Reno's been pretty assertive over there. So what's so special about this one? Well, there is a lot special about it. It is a very challenging site that I think existing and planned public facilities service availability timing has really been ignored. And also health and welfare at grade railroad crossings and I'd forgotten about that, are not something to wink and nod about. I mean, they are big time. And the concerns that I have out in West Reno, in Verdi, about transportation safety are so significant. And I'm all the way over close to downtown where I live and most of my ward is in South. And it is #1 area for me. It's a bigger concern for me regionally than what's going down in the fast growth areas of Damani Ranch, because it has grown so out of sync with the infrastructure planning. And I think Reno needs to be a bigger voice out there, and not when it gets all split up, no one's out advocating. When I came on, and I know I'm going on here, but when I came on in 2012, I looked at the regional transportation plan and I said, wait, the Verdi overpass is on the regional plan, the RTC plan for funding? How is this? How could that be? There's nothing going on out there. And then it fell off. And then the growth kept coming, the growth kept coming, the growth kept coming. And I haven't seen anyone advocate for that overchange to get rebuilt. And we all know it's a big ticket, and it was gonna be developer funded. Well, the developers have all come through. There's a lot of safety concerns out there, and I think Reno needs to own it all, particularly this difficult, challenging site, and they need the procedure of a special use permit to evaluate a project on a very site-specific circumstance. And they won't have that with this rollback. So I am really concerned about everything out there. And it's just, there is irony, and I can see why the trust there are trustful misgivings for people who have seen Reno assert their SOI and annexation in the Mortenson Garson so strongly in this area, but want to roll out of this one So I will not be supporting it at this jurisdiction either. Thank you. And I apologize for going on.
Thank you. Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. First, and perhaps Dr. Smith or Ms. Prunty can answer, but this was also taken up by the Regional Planning Board earlier this week or late last week. So what was the outcome there?
Thank you, Jeremy Smith. For the record, that was heard at this Monday evening's December 6th Regional Planning Commission meeting. The outcome there was for the recommendation of a regional plan amendment, voted 8-1 in favor. And in terms of the conformance review of the master plan to change with the translation table to commercial was also 8-1 in approval.
Yeah, so I guess my point for the body is I understand Ms. Breckus doesn't desire to see things happen out in that community. I don't think that we can block them from happening. This is a particularly difficult parcel because I agree with my colleague, Councilmember Dewar, who notes wisely that it's a very challenging site. It is a site that I've visited probably 4 or 5 times over the last several years. It's why the city of Reno voted against the last time a project was in front of it. But this is a little different. With the sphere of influence issues, we're really talking about how our governments interact with one another in regional matters, and when property is not annexed, how do we deal with that? It's a site that we can't annex. There are problems with annexation. So it's one of those things where it can't be annexed. It is in the SOI. It is neither fish nor fowl. And to that end, one of the concerns that was raised by my colleagues in the city of Reno was how fire service is provided to this area. And it was certainly, I think, a factor in why our body voted 5-2 to sponsor this action today as the applicant. So I can't agree with Councilmember Breckus, and so I am supportive of the effort to roll the SOI back. But like Councilmember Dewar, I don't know anything about a project that would be built there. I have concerns about lots of issues that arise there about railroad crossings and the way that the corners turn off of the freeway. So it's something that if it should go to the county, it will have to be really carefully examined and scrutinized. And like Ms. Dewar, I trust that our colleagues in other jurisdictions will evaluate the projects on their merits when they're there, just as you would expect of us if they were here. So no issues in that regard, and ultimately I think and hope that the folks who might ultimately build on this site will understand what the community in Mogul and Verdi are interested in there and what might happen there.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to point out that under intergovernmental impacts, and this is something that I have said numerous times, and you have all heard me say this, a property owner cannot serve 2 masters. It's just impossible. And I think that under intergovernmental impacts, this provides clarity in terms of the development process. If you think, as surrounding landowners and property owners, that this is a path of least resistance for the potential property owner, I give you my word, it's not. So I am ready one way or another to either have more discussion or entertain a motion either for or against. Mr.
Quick
Lawson.
comment. So in the city of Sparks, we've run into this issue quite a bit. And I know during our 2019 master plan amendment, we took some great strides to remove these types of parcels from our sphere of influence. I can tell you that the definition of group home in Washoe County is different than the definition of group home in the city of Sparks. 2 different definitions that completely change the project. I agree that you need to have one zoning factor. The applicant actually came to the city of Sparks, got an application, and got it approved by Washoe County, perfectly within the bounds of what happens, but they approved 2 different projects, not based on our definition, but based on Washoe County's definition. So it caused a big problem. So personally, from the city of Sparks experience, and as Commissioner Hartung mentioned, had a guy running a rodeo that we were responsible for giving him a permit for, but Washoe County was responsible for all the safety, roads, sheriff, everything else. Then also not fair. So for me, it's an easy rollback. And once again, I'll second the thought that I have complete confidence in Washoe County to do the right thing. It's what they do. It's why you elected them. It's why you elected all of us, is just to do the right thing. So I'm not too worried about it. I know that there's a lot more to go. This is just the beginning, if there even is gonna be a project. So we'll see what shakes out. But for me, we're doing a disservice if we do not have a singular definition for a piece of property that sits in 2 footprints. And that's what we did, and Mr. Rendell sitting out here nodding his head. We looked for those parcels very heavily during the regional plan update so we could get them out, just for the people's sake. Because there's nothing worse than somebody saying, well, definition over here is this and the definition over here is that. You gotta get approval here, but you get your building permit over here. It's a mess. So I'm gonna support the removal from the SOI, and I'm gonna support it, and just based on the fact that it was the city of Reno that is the applicant here.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments at this time? Ms. Jardin or Mr. Lucy? No? Mr. Lucy, are you there, please?
Sorry, Chairman. Yes, I'm here. No comments from me, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, all right, I'm going to bring it back to the board, and I'm going to entertain a motion either for or against.
Make a stab at this.
Okay, Mr. Lawson, the floor is yours.
I'm a move to adopt RPGB Resolution 21-11 regarding an amendment to the 2019 Turkey Meadows Regional Plan as detailed in this staff report.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Lawson, second by Ms. Vanderwell. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Jardin, were you an aye? I didn't hear you.
I was an aye.
Okay, thank you. And I heard Mr. Lucy as an aye. Nay, those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Mr. Abbott, were you an aye? Okay. I'm an aye, yeah. You're an aye. Okay, so the motion carries, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10?
10 till 8 to 2.
8 to 2. Okay, motion carries 8 to 2 to remove from the SOI. Okay, property owners, again, I give you my word, this is not over. This is not over. This is a very basic request of removal from the SOI. All right, that takes us now to item, let's see, we're 7C. 7C. Oh my goodness, Ms. Prunty, will you open this item for us? Discussion and possible action to approve the 2021-2022 contract with Dr. Jeremy Smith.
Yes, my pleasure. Jessica Prunty for the record. Following your October meeting, Chairman Hartung and I met with Dr. Smith and discussed the specifics of his contract. The proposed contract is enclosed in your packet. The discussion essentially resulted in a consensus of keeping all of the terms and conditions of the contract in place with the salary increase to $150,000. There was reasons beyond for the increase, particularly from Director Smith. He wanted it to be measured and not a huge leap from his existing salary. And so that was the number that was arrived at. I know that Chairman Hartung had some discussions from a few members of this body from different jurisdictions, and he wanted it to be brought back to you for a full discussion rather than placing it on the consent agenda. And with that, I leave it to you for your discussion.
Okay, thank you so much. So what we have here is a difficult scenario. We have an employee who is exemplary. In fact, we have an organization that is exemplary, in my opinion. And I think Jeremy, Dr. Smith, has been beyond humble in the way that he has approached this. we discussed back and forth. We talked about the numbers that were discussed at the last board meeting, and then we talked about, basically no pay increase versus, I believe the numbers that were bantied about were about 165,000. We came, the three of us, Ms. Prunty, Mr. Smith, and myself, Dr. Smith and myself, came to a point where we agreed that somewhere in the middle would be an appropriate number, and we landed on 150,000. So I will open up any discussions that you would like to have at this time, either for or against that position. That is just what we came up with, and Ms. Prunty, we're in a position to change that. That was just something that we had agreed on, correct?
Absolutely. This body can determine whatever the salary should be for Dr. Smith for the next contract year.
So $50 down, $50 a week for 50 years?
Mr. Chair.
Is that not enough?
I don't think that was in there.
Oh, all right. Well, geez. All right, Ms. Dewar.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you and Ms. Prunty and Dr. Smith for your hard work on this. I know this is a very delicate balancing issue. And as always, Dr. Smith is very humble, right? He's always wanting less than. We have been pushing more than. And I admire what you have attempted to do. I think when you left us, I distinctly recall Mr. Reese and myself speaking about a higher number. And, but that be as it may, you've worked hard to kind of come up to what you think is an appropriate number. I also had an opportunity to talk to you, and I talked to you about, I was very concerned about the general pay of the whole staff, which is something Dr. Smith has also brought up over the years. And I know I told you that I was very interested in a salary survey for the staff, because one thing we don't want to do is have our director here, our staff here, and they're all a team, and they're all working together, and there's a great disparity. And I also know that it takes quite a while to do a salary survey and actually get it implemented as well as budgeted. But I also don't want to hold people back unnecessarily because of the time constraints or the length of time it takes. So I have a proposal. Don't know if others would concur with this. I would be very willing to accept, the negotiated agreement between the three of you for a salary of $150,000. But I wonder if we could consider a $10,000 bonus, and Dr. Smith could do what he wishes with that. I know last time we tried, and he gave it away to his staff, the majority of it. I would say 80% of it is what I understood. But I don't, and I'm not counting on that, but it's sort of a split the difference, because a salary is a salary, it goes into PERS. It's important to establish what a salary is. A bonus does not go into PERS, and it's just simply income. You do have to pay taxes on that income. So I don't know if there's any interest in that in this body, and it doesn't have to be $10,000 as a potential bonus, but that's where I generally am on this. Usually I want everything in the salary. I just want it clean in the salary and be done with it. But I also think we have a little bit of a complex situation here with this entire staff. So I'm just throwing it out on the table, see what others think, go from there.
So before we proceed, Ms. Prunty, should we give Dr. Smith a $10,000 bonus, he's on the hook for the taxes. Am I correct in that? Not if he gifts it to his employees.
That is correct.
Right, so he has to pay the IRS, not on $10,000, not on a bonus, but on his current salary,
Yes, that is correct, Mr.
on
Chair.
his household income.
Yeah,
So
and I
it
should
adds-
have phrased it, and I'm sorry, a net 10,000, and that would have, I've talked to Ms. Prunty about this very
Okay.
issue.
I just want to make sure, because what happens is it puts, and while I'm not.
I agree.
I'm not talking about our other staff members, and I'm fully willing to do a salary survey and come back and say, okay, where are we?
Yeah.
Because we have suffered this in all of our organizations where we've lost really good people because our salaries are not commensurate, even with sister, as it were, organizations in the region. And conversely, we have gotten some really good folks from the state, because we pay higher than the state does. So that's, I'm fully willing to do that, but that becomes my concern, is that
Yeah.
Dr. Smith is on the hook for that. Mr. Reese, I saw you up next.
Okay, but let me just say
Okay.
net, I left that out of my thing, and I had talked to Ms. Prunty about that, so that you calculate what the taxes are. So maybe the number's 13, but it ends up being 10. Anyway,
Okay.
she could explain it better than I could.
And Ms. Prunty, I don't know how you would calculate what the taxes are, because that has nothing to do with his overall income between him and his wife. That $10,000.
correct. It
That
would just be-
$10,000 could very well put him into the next tax bracket and have nothing to do with, I mean, it's possible. It is, believe me, it is possible.
And I can't speak to those
That's correct, and
factors.
we're not here to talk about that. So
But
those
you
are the
could
only things
attempt
I
to-
concern
y-
myself
yes,
with.
You could attempt to try to have the bookkeeper make a calculation and make an estimate of the taxes and have a net 10, but that's up to the discretion of this board.
Right.
Currently, bonuses to the staff is not being styled for action today, but
Correct.
Dr. Smith has the discretion to give bonuses to his staff if there's some direction here today.
Would you say that a different way? Dr. Smith has the discretion to give bonuses directly to his staff?
I think he could do that so long as it's within the budget.
Okay, but we're not stylized
We're
to
not
do that on this
stylized.
agenda item today. Okay.
That is correct.
Mr. Reese?
Thank you so much. Look, the truth is, we are underpaying Dr. Smith. We are underpaying him also based on his metrics, which we did in the review the last time we met. And so it's an odd place to be, because I'm looking at this same issue in my own law firm when we're talking about how do we hire and retain people. And I'm looking at just Googling salary increase 2022 news stories. And here are the headlines. Revised salary increase budgets head towards 4% for American workers. Big raises in store for U.S. workers in 2022. Companies planning raises in 2022. What workers can expect. Governor Parsons recommends wages increase for all state employees. Minnehaha County elected officials see 12% raise increases. The point is that we have to pay people for the work that they do. I would appreciate or be more inclined to support the 165 number that I originally thought was the appropriate number. I will say in a salary survey, because we just did this at the city of Reno, and we're our top employee, we only have two, received a very significant raise because the salary was not in line with what the other salaries in this region are. And so at the end of the day, I don't know what happened in negotiations. I'm sure Dr. Smith is once more being gracious to a fault. At the end of the day, though, too, these are not items in a vacuum. I feel very badly when public employees kind of, for a variety of reasons, slit their own throat. These are things that compound over time when we talk about PERS compensable things. And today, it may seem gracious and nice and, well-spirited, but in 20 years, you're looking at a person who did not recover those wages over a significant period of time, and therefore have not been able to build their PERS in a way that is honoring to that employee as well. So for my part, it's too low. Councilmember Dewar is trying to find another path. I probably would support that if it's the only path. But for me, the motion I would be seeking is the approval or acceptance of this agreement, but at the salary of 165.
Okay. All right. So we did a quick calculation, and Ms. Prunty, correct me if I'm wrong. This is about a 9% increase in pay. Is that correct, at 150? 150. Okay. Okay. Members, anyone else? So I know Mr. Lucy and Ms. Jarden have not been here, so I think it would be difficult for you to chime in on performance and et cetera, although I know.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Jarden.
Chair Hartung, and you are correct, not being intimately involved. I can just tell you though, from outside looking in, the perception and the information that I have gleaned from colleagues and community members has been incredibly favorable. And that's a big deal. So that's my only contribution here with regards is what people in the community say and what my colleagues say, and it's all very positive.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, there's no question. We all know that Mr. Smith, Dr. Smith, slices, dices, chops, and peels. He does it all. I mean, there's just no question about that. But, you know, the question is again, we landed on 150. If that's a number, if we want to talk about a bonus, we certainly can. We're not here to talk about bonuses. Ms. Prunty, give me some direction. Would we have to bring that back for a future agenda item, or is that in the purview of Dr. Smith without the board's direction? I think I know the answer to this question already, but I feel compelled to put it on the record.
My recollection from the last update to the employee manual for the organization is that Dr. Smith has the ability to promote members of the staff. I do not think that there is a specific provision regarding bonuses to the staff. So
Correct.
Let me get back to you on that to confirm.
I don't recall any either.
I would
Yeah.
recommend bringing it back as a separate agenda item if that is the pleasure of the board.
Okay, yeah, I don't recall any either. Ms. Breckus, floor is yours.
Yeah. You know, we entrusted you to go into negotiations and you came back with a number. It seems like some want to bring another number. And in your discussions with him, I think he brought a very legitimate point, which is parity with those who oversee him, because there's tangibles to that. When an executive director who has a lot of contact with the board gets jumped up a lot, it can create bad blood down below. I've seen it recently. So I think there's good intentions all around. I'd like to end this and settle on 155, 2-day, base salary. If you'll take that as a motion.
So that's what's it going to take to drive it off the lot?
Yes, and the legitimate issues of the staff, retention, their salary schedule, whatever, other item, other issue.
Yes, no.
Subject to funding.
That motion. if
You
that's
did
a
second that motion, okay.
Okay, so, all right. So for purposes of a motion, hold on just a second. I have a motion by Ms. Breckus, second by Ms. Dewar. Do we have any public comment on this item?
I do not believe so. Let me just double check my email to see if I've gotten any, and I have not, so there's
Okay.
none.
All right, I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second under discussion.
I'll
Mr.
support the
Lawson.
155, but at the same time, we took on the Hay study for the city of Sparks many, many years ago. It is probably one of the better programs. I suggest if we're going to implement some type of salary research, we look at the Hay study.
Good.
It's fair. It's comparative to that same job everywhere else. And I hate to say it this way, but you know, if you know me, you know I'm pretty blunt. I don't expect staff to get an 11.5% raise in this whole deal. And that's no comment on staff. But at the end of the day, Reno and Sparks and Washoe County pay for this board. You know, we're the ones that put the money in that runs this whole thing. So it's still got to go back to our councils for next year's funding. And I think that's an important factor to know also. But I'm
Okay.
going to support it.
Okay? Mr. Rees.
Thank you. I'm not going to support the motion. It's unfortunate that we are at this point because it's supposed to be a positive thing. But the truth is when you underpay people or undervalue them, you are doing a disservice to the organization. So I think it's not that big of a jump from the two numbers. I'm not saying anyone who votes for it is, acting in some way that is anathema to the organization. I just think that if we acknowledge that we have factors outside of the organization about parity, about the way inflation is going, about the underpayment in the past, we should correct that. And we can do that today easily. Each of our bodies is going through the same thing. Each of them understands the realities of this workforce, and we should acknowledge that. So I don't want to see Dr. Smith walk out of here without a contract, but on principle, I will not support the motion.
Okay,
A question
Ms. Dewar?
for our attorney. Does the contract allow for only an annual increase, or is it an increase at any time, or?
Dr. Smith has a one-year contract that's
Yeah.
renewed on an annual basis by this board. And so it also contemplates that at the time of evaluation and contract renewal, there'll be a discussion about
Yeah.
increases.
Okay, because I just want to comment to Mayor Lawson's point. If we do a salary survey, then I think we should make sure we do the salary survey on the manager as well, the director, and think about that the next time around as well.
Okay.
You know, not just our staff, but look at them all.
Yeah, no, we can certainly do that. I can tell you, we have had issues kind of in the past. I had some conversations with some folks when we were going through this process, when Ms. Prunty and Dr. Smith and I were all sitting down. This is a really difficult one because a regional agency like this is not easy to find.
Right.
They're not just out there. You can't just go to Boise and say, okay, what is Boise doing? What are they doing down in Las Vegas? What are they doing? This is a very unique, I would also almost dare a homespun type of an organization. So it becomes difficult, and I am completely understanding of Councilman Reese's position. I do not disagree. I think Dr. Smith is worth a lot more. I would love to pay all of my staff a lot more, but it becomes difficult when you start dealing with this stuff in fairly large numbers. When you talk about single entities, it's easier, but it does get difficult. So, any other discussion from board members? All right. So I have a motion by Ms. Breckus for $155,000. I have a second by Ms. Dewar for that number. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No. Okay, Mr. Lucy and Ms. Jarden, are you still on the line?
Aye.
Mr. Lucy? I'm going to have to count Mr. Lucy as being absent because I can't verify his vote. So
I'm here, sir.
I'm sorry.
Are
you an aye?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I apologize, Bob. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I am hopeful. I mean, we do at least have two analogs, and that is the Truckee River Flood Project, Flood Authority, which is a regional board, at least something to look at, as well as RTC. Again, a regional authority, something to look at. We may be able to find analogs similar to those in other places too. So I do have hope, that we can do a sufficient.
When we looked at those, under this final discussion, when we looked at those, their budgets are substantially higher.
Gotcha.
That's where the difference really was, because
No, I understand.
both RTC and the Truckee River Flood Management Authority have much larger budgets and much,
Primarily in capital, I think, is they're building stuff, right?
well, they have bigger budgets,
Yeah.
period. Yeah, so, okay, all right, Dr. Smith, congratulations, we got you through that.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas is right, all right.
It's going to be a little better.
That takes us, I believe that means you're buying.
If only.
We're going to meet in Maui, 6 PM. You can all, if all of you
You
can
had
be
me
there.
buying last time because of being the former chair, but
Well,
that
there you
hasn't-
go, see?
Exactly, my point. My
All
point.
right, that takes us to item number 8. Under reports, Dr. Smith, would you open item number 8 for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Jeremy Smith for the record. We have item 8, it's our reports, and the first report is from Washington County School District Board of Trustees member Beth Smith.
Thank you so much.
Ms.
My
Smith,
first,
welcome.
thank you. My very first question is, do non-voting members also get to go to the drinks in Maui? Because-
Absolutely,
Just
absolutely.
for inclusiveness. So thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to share some news. Short report from the school district. The one thing that we would like to share is for our upcoming Tuesday meeting, December 14th, we do have an agendized item to possibly award a construction bid for the new elementary school in South Reno. We're very excited to welcome that new school into our portfolio of education sites, and more information on that soon.
Really brief.
That was very brief. Brief. All right, that takes us to item B. Thank you so much. Members and directors report. We'll start with the director's report. Dr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I have a short report for you. I'd like to start by saying thank you very much for the promotion and the raise in the contract, rather. I really appreciate it. And we're going to continue to work really hard to move forward and continue to improve, I think, how we function at regional planning. And I just want to start by talking about the budget. We didn't bring an item because, as discussed in October, at this time, we do not anticipate any jurisdictional allocation increases necessary. I've talked to the city and county managers about this, so they're aware. But that does include increases for staff starting July 1 of the next fiscal year. So 5% increases, as well as the potential for 2 promotions for 2 folks in staff. So there is plans in the work to try to help bring staff up to the level that they deserve. So in February, we will be bringing back that final budget for adoption by this body, well, still in advance of the budget approvals at the local jurisdictions. And one other area I've mentioned before that we're making good progress on is developing a formalized shared work program with the Western Regional Water Commission. We're close to being able to bring that forward, so that will also help augment our budget. Secondarily, we started reinitiated the PRS review subcommittee at a meeting in November, and we had, I think, a very fruitful meeting that led us to some direction for the PRS review, which is really going back to the history that we provided previously of things that were put in or taken out of the guidelines, the resolutions, and contextualizing the conversation about why. And that's really what our task is, and we're going to try to bring that back then to a meeting of that subcommittee in January. We're also making progress on the natural resources plan. So we have begun, we did a presentation at the Nevada APA that was well received. We've begun contacting entities in the region that we believe are either data providers or stakeholders. I think we sent our initial email out to 60 organizations, and we've heard back and been in correspondence with, I think, 53 of them. So we're doing pretty good in terms of engaging folks and starting to get data and building that path forward, which is great. Just to make you aware, obviously the new census results are out. We've talked about how that could influence our consensus forecast projections, which we're going to start working on early next year. And that then has trickle-down cascade effects to water planning, transportation planning, all of those things that we help to provide the basis for. And interestingly, I was invited by the University of Virginia's Biocomplexity Institute to serve on a stakeholder group looking at census data deliverables and sort of how the census is conducted and how they mash up data at the census, a long project in advance of the 2030 decennial census. So far I've participated for about an hour on a webinar, but ideally I'll be able to move forward and continue to work with that, and I'll be able to know what's happening with that. Other than that, I think that's it. Our next meeting is next year, February 10th. We approved the schedule today. And once again, just thank you very much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and look forward to the next year together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Smith. All right, that takes us to member comments and/or reports.
Legal counsel.
Oh, actually, no, we have members and directors report. We did directors, we have not done members. Are there any reports from any members? Okay, all right, I will close that. Now we have legal counsel. Ms. Prenti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to report, just very warm wishes for a safe and happy holiday season to all of you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, that takes us to board comments and requests for future agenda items. Mr. Lawson.
I'd like to see bring back just a brief overview for the board to understand what the Hay study is in normalizing salaries across the board. It's worked out well for us. It takes a lot of argument out of who deserves what.
We have used the Hay study as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful program. Good.
Anyone else? Okay. And that could suffice also for salary surveys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. All right. If there's no one else wishing to speak, that takes us to item 10. Mr. Clerk, public comment, please.
We have none.
Okay. I will close public comment. Do we have any written correspondence?
No, we do not.
Okay. So for our final meeting of the year, I want to wish everyone a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Kwanzaa, whatever your faith is. And we look forward to seeing you in January. Everyone stay safe out there. I don't know if it is continuing to snow, but all I would say is let's all pray for rain and snow. We are adjourned.
Better. Better.